Hey YouTube world, what's going on? Mark here from TST Industries, back in the garage, and today we have the beautiful Aprilia RS 660 behind me. This will be the installation video of our all-new Elite-1 Fender Eliminator system for the Aprilia RS 660. Now, if you want to check out this product in full details and all of its glory, figure out what we did to design it and why we did certain things, be sure to check out our product feature video. The link to that video can be found in the description of this video. But in short, we will be offering 3 different Fender Eliminator options. We have our standard high mount, the adjustable high mount, and of course the Elite-1 low mount system. Now with this kit, you will be removing your OEM fender, you will be losing your signals. We will have a separate video on how to install rear LED pod signals on the Aprilia RS 660, but just note that our Elite-1 kit is pairable with our LED rear pod signals, and we will be offering a bundle with that. And lastly, if you are interested in getting a license plate light, we have our universal license plate light, which can be added on through the product page of this product at a discounted rate, or you can choose to not run one and we won't charge you for it. So in this video, we'll be showing you how to install our Elite-1 high mount Fender Eliminator, and we're gonna hand it over to Bart and he will guide you through the installation process.
Step 1 will consist of removing the license plate off the bike. We're gonna retain the hardware. We may need to use the license plate holding hardware on our new setup. Next, get rid of the passenger seat or seat cowl, whatever's present on your bike. Driver's seat comes off. And then we'll have to remove 4 fasteners from this tray. If you only have a seat cowl, this will not be present. If you have a seat tray, this is the procedure. We'll use a 10mm socket for the middle screws, followed by an 8mm socket for the lateral screws, and now the tray comes off. So 10, 10, 8, 8. At this point, we're going to take it side by side. We're on the right side now. I'm gonna find this screw here, 4mm Allen, shiny screw, shoulder present. Now let's go up here. This one is black coated. It also has a shoulder. Silver screw here. It does have a shoulder. And one back here that ties the rear portion of the tail fairing to the tail light. This one is a black screw, but it has no shoulder. It's just a regular screw. Now let's go up the line here to the forward section of this fairing. There is a clip feature that goes under the tank. I'm going to need to disengage that. I get my hands under this part and it just pops right out. And now it's just a matter of undoing a bunch of slide locks here. Gently rotate the bottom outward and upward, and that clears these sliding clip features from their interference window geometry. And then we can put this part to the side. I'm going to jump on over to the left side of the bike, perform the same steps. The removal of the lower side panels here exposes one additional fastener. Let's get that fastener out from each side. This is a black screw. It's a little bit shorter and it has a shoulder. All right, so now we have this chunk separated. The right side fairing, the left side fairing, and the mid fairing are still tied together using several pieces of hardware, but now we can actually remove this as a chunk, and that just makes things a little bit easier in reassembly. Nice and easy. And now we've gained access here. An additional step that I like to make is the removal of the seat latch. This is done using a 4mm Allen as well. The reason why I take the seat latch off is because the cable here poses some interference. This is not a crucial step. You can skip around it if you're okay digging around through the latch cable. For my purposes here, and to be able to show you what I'm doing a little bit better, we are going to take it off. These are the screws I just removed using a 4mm Allen. There is a latch bracket that sits in here as well. I'm going to take that off, put it to the side. Now we have nice access in here. So let's identify the lighting, fender lighting connection here. There's a 4-position plug that needs to be disassembled. This is the bike side, this is the fender side. This will come out with the fender. And now we still have our taillight wire in the way. Now I'm making access to this nut here and the same nut on the opposite side. These nuts cap off the screw that goes through the fender into the subframe. These will need to be removed. On the bottom, I'm using a T30 size Torx bit. And up top, this is a 10mm nut for added access. We could actually slip off the taillight connection off of its post here. I'm going to use a box wrench because this is a tight space and the axis of this screw interferes with this component. So we are going to have to hold this with an open-ended wrench like so. And I'm turning the screw head from the bottom as I do that. I'm going to repeat this on the other side. There's one additional screw that needs to be removed. It is on axis here, so it's right below on the fender. This one also receives a T30 Torx tool. Once this is loosened, the whole fender assembly will come down, so we need to suspend the fender. Remove that screw. And now the fender is free to come out. We just have to make sure we don't snag this connector. And there it is. So after we take down the fender, we still have these two shoulder washers protruding through the undertail. These will need to be removed. This is fairly easy. There's a wire routing window here. If we pull down on it, that makes enough clearance to pop these guys out. I just hold my hand in front of that spacer on the inside, and it just kind of drops right into my hand. I'm going to do that on both sides. All right, let's pre-configure our kit before we actually go to the bike and install it on there. Since our high mount fender eliminator exists in 2 different versions, adjustable or standard, I will show you how to pre-configure each one of these kits and then take it over to the bike. Past the table portion, the installation is actually exactly the same whether you have the adjustable or the standard. So what we'll do is just take one of those and show the steps post table on the bike. If you have the other version, the installation steps will be exactly the same. All right, let's quickly talk about what these components are. I have many components here in front of me. Let me clarify to you what we're doing. If you take this kit away, what's left is the entire assembly components for the adjustable kit. Move these back into position here. Take this guy away. Now you have the standard version. I will move these away. Take away the installation hardware that installs the kit to the bike. And this will simplify our flow. That way I'll be able to show you how to pre-configure these components into one chunk and then use the main installation hardware to mount that on the bike. Similarly, I will then configure this setup into a chunk, and that would follow the same steps for assembly onto the bike. So what I'll do here is start with the simpler one, since it's a lot simpler to pre-configure. This is our standard bracket. It gets coupled up with this spacer adapter that will make use of a curved surface and mate it to the closeout, and then enable the mounting of our bracket to that. We will grab a washer, drop one of the screws from the outside to the inside. Outside meaning cosmetic surface, inside meaning the surface that meets the bike. We'll grab another washer and a nylock locking nut. We'll engage those threads, and then we'll repeat the steps for the other side, the other hole. Before we cinch this down all the way, I want to point something out to you here. This spacer adapter, if you were to install it the opposite way, you will obscure the hole, you will obscure the access to the hole that is used for mounting to the bike. So make sure that the relief in the spacer is facing the forward edge of the bike, like so, and that that hole is not obscured. All right, let's grab a 10mm open-ended wrench or box, whatever your flavor is. On the outside, we'll be using a 4mm Allen. I get it close to bottom out, back off a quarter turn. I just want to leave a little bit of adjustability. I'll do a fine tune on how this bracket sits on there. After we get close to bottom. Now I have friction on this setup, but I'm still able to move it around a little bit. So I'll make sure that it's centered. And then I also like to push it towards the slimmer portion of the closeout. That makes sure that this entire bracket is as far back as it'll go, and line it up with the edges of the spacer. And that's pleasing to me right here. I'm gonna tighten down all the way on these fasteners. For this particular installation, I am not using thread locking agent because our nuts have a thread locking element built in. All right, so this would now be ready to move onto the bike. We would grab the extra fastening components. Spacer goes in here with the flat face. The little stepped face goes towards the bike. The long screw goes from the bottom. Now we have a washer and screw pair that interface with each one of these screw bosses. And grab these guys and they drop in through the top of the bike. All right, so this is the standard chunk. I will now demonstrate how the adjustable chunk works. What you see here is our adjustable setup that has been built by us here. It shows up to you in a bag. The components are loose. I will now show you how to pre-configure this whole chunk and then assemble it onto the closeout. To simplify our assembly job here, I have emptied the contents of our bag and visually arranged the components in the order that they will be coming together in. Here you'll see an axis where the screw will go through the washer, through this bracket, into its hinge point. Similarly, on this side, we have the same setup. Here on this axis, you see this countersunk screw will go through the middle hole here, through the slot of the bracket, and into this nut. This is a flange nut. This is a countersunk screw. This is an M6 button head screw, and the washer is a washer. We've now identified all of the parts. I wanted to draw attention to two extra details. Our L brackets are bent, not at a 90 degree. They do have a slope to them. I like to arrange them like so. This is the correct orientation for our assembly. The other detail I want to point your attention to is our hinge part has a flat face and then a curved face. The curved face we want to be facing the rear of the bike, and the rear of the bike is where our license plate bracket will be sitting. So this is why I've arrange them like this, flat on the bottom, curved on the top. We will make use of a medium strength thread locking agent on these screws only. These screws receive a locking nut, so no big deal. I will actually get that thread locking agent on my screws ahead of time. We'll make it easy. All right, now let's start assembling. Our hinge point has an elevated surface here. It is a boss that is concentric with the hole. This is meant to fit inside the hole of our bracket and thereby creating a hinge. Make sure that it seats like I'm demonstrating. For this connection, we want to get it all the way down and then back off just a tiny little bit to preserve a little bit of adjustability. Don't want a whole lot of movement, but we don't want sloppiness. That's looking good. I'll do one at a time here and make use of the middle hole. Feed that through the slot in the bracket now. Put a flange nut on with the flange interfacing the L bracket, like so. And this particular connection will utilize an 8mm box wrench from the underside here on the nut and a 3mm Allen from the outside. Once again, we are going all the way to the bottom and then backing off a little bit for adjustability. I want to be able to move it around without damaging the surface, but not so loose that it's sloppy for us. Tighten this guy down a little bit more. All right, same procedure here on this side, middle hole, through the flat bracket, through the L bracket, flange nut, good to go. Now this assembly is ready to be mounted onto our closeout. It is also going to be going through this same spacer that we used for our standard assembly. It is also going to have to be placed on correctly. Fairly easy to realize that you've put it on backwards if this hole is obscured. Now for this connection here between the closeout through our spacer into here, we will be using the same screws that mount the standard one on. Since we are going into mechanical fastening features in aluminum, we will now need to apply just a little bit of that thread locking agent. One washer per side, through closeout, through spacer, and I'll use a 4mm Allen to get that threaded into the hinge. Repeat the steps on the other side. So once again, we leave just a little bit of adjustability here in the system. I'm going to want to make sure that everything is adjusted properly. We want the axis of these two screws to be coaxial. We want these surfaces of the hinges to be parallel. Otherwise, your hinge action will not be smooth and you'll catch tension at certain deflections. So it's fairly important to get this right. I'm gonna use a 10mm open-ended wrench to hold my hinge in place and then tighten down on the screw, holding it on. I'm going to repeat that step with the other hinge. Get that tight. Check my hinge action, and then I will just adjust these hinges a little bit. Even though they're tight, still leave a little bit of possibility of movement. All right, that's looking good. So now I will tighten down on my hinge points. The final adjustment of these hinge points will be done on the bike with the license plate on it. We will decide on the hanging angle that we will want on the bike. For now, I just want to eliminate any motion. Last connection that we need to tighten down all the way is right here. If you are happy with it being centered, you can go ahead and tighten that. If not, then adjust it first and then tighten it down. Now this chunk is ready to go on the bike. Again, spacer goes in here, shoulder in the spacer faces the bike, long screw goes in here. We're able to transfer that onto the bike, screw this in, and then we bring in these screws, put a little bit of thread locking agent in there, and go through the top of the bike and screw those in. Let's hop on over to the bike and we'll perform the assembly procedure there. I'll choose this particular chunk to do that with. Again, whether you've chosen the adjustable or the standard, the rest of this installation will be exactly the same. All right, back on the bike here. Again, we have our chunk ready to go onto the bike. Very important, the shouldered end of the spacer is facing up towards the bike. I'm gonna put a little bit of thread locking agent on this screw. That'll prevent vibration causing it to fall out. And now we can align this screw with the center mounting hole back here. If you are running a license plate light on this setup, this is an excellent time to route it. If you are using one of our license plate lights, it's fairly simple. Just get it up through that wiring window. It rests up here. It will go in between the license plate bracket and the license plate itself. There is a relief cut into our closeout here that will route this wire up for you. The connection method for the license plate light will be shown in our lighting installment video. So I'm not gonna do that now. Just wanted to mention that, since if you guys are at this step with the Fender Eliminator and you're using the license plate light, that would be an instrumental piece of information for your success. Using a 5mm Allen, I will find that thread and engage it. I'm gonna go to the bottom and then back off a quarter turn, making sure we have just a little bit of adjustability. Then we are left with the 2 screws and 2 washers that make our connection from the top. Once again, we are going to put a little bit of thread locking agent on the threads of these screws. And then we're going to hop up top and I'll show you how to get those in. From top view here, the 2 screw holes of interest to us are here and here. I have my screws with the thread locking agent ready with the washers dropped onto them. Now the challenge here is to get these screws threaded up, even though the axis of the screw itself interferes with this frame member. What I'm using here is a ball end Allen. Okay, so if you don't have a ball end Allen, I would suggest that you start by hand. You find the threads, you engage them, and then you can just use a 4mm Allen L wrench like this and go half turn by half turn until you get it down to bottom. You can actually get it in pretty much all the way by hand and then use an L wrench to finalize the tightening. Now my L wrench fits in here just fine, so I'm not catching any interference. I'll be able to get this screw all the way to the bottom and tighten it up. All right, that's all the way tight. I'm gonna tighten up that last screw, the middle screw. It's the first one that I actually screwed in on this setup, but it's the last one I'm gonna tighten. All right, now that's looking good. Everything on the bottom is pretty much ready to go to receive the license plate on it. But while we're up top here, I'm going to replace the wiring here for the taillight. We do make a brake light modulator. If you are already in here and you've invaded this space and you purchase one of those modulators, this is an excellent opportunity to connect it in and mount it since all these components are off. In the following step, we will be repositioning the seat latch. I need to bring the bracket here. These holes need to pop down onto the screw locations. It's pretty important to find the screw threads here. The screw threads that receive these screws are aluminum. They are riv nuts, so it's pretty easy to damage them. Cross thread them, it's kind of a difficult task to redo them. Find the threads first and then use a tool to get them all the way down. And at this point, we could bring our tail fairing into view and get it situated back on the tail. Key trick here is to have the trailing edge of the fairing butt up on the inside of the lens element of the tail light. Will give you the correct fit. All right, we're looking good here. I'm going to start with the screws back here and move forward. The correct screws to use in each location were called out during disassembly, so if you have any questions about that, you can reference the disassembly portion. With the side fairing, we need to get this hook in this location under the tank. Simultaneously, we'll need to have this clip over this mount, surface mount, and then these slide locks will have to start aft, get put into their windows and slid forward. I think I have all of the fasteners tight now. Everything's good to go. Going to get my rear seat tray in place. I'm going to find the screw threads and engage them. All right, the top portion's done. Let's grab us a plate, mount it, make adjustments for the hanging angle, and then we'll be done. Let's now get our license plate on the bike. I'm just using whatever hardware we took off the bike. The hardware that came with it was the reflective type. If you do not have license plate holding hardware, we do sell several different types. One of the types we sell is these reflective guys, but we also offer a set of hardware that uses anodized aluminum washers, and you can customize the color combination to complement the bike. We have red, blue, silver, black, several other colors. Check that out on tstindustries.com. Right now I'm going to take a 4mm Allen, crack the hinge point loose, see what's possible. Obviously, if we set it straight up, the travel of the suspension will end up hitting the tire into the plate, and that's no good. So we need to have it somewhat up away from the tire. This is my preferred angle. Makes the bike look really nice. It's low profile. We'll keep our license plate safe. I'm gonna tighten it back down, make sure that I have enough tightness here so that it doesn't loosen itself. We did use thread locking agent in there, so it shouldn't loosen itself from vibration, but we do still need to tighten it down. All right, that's pretty much it.
And there you have it. Our TST Elite-1 high mount fender eliminator for the Aprilia RS 660 is installed. And as you can see, comparing it to the stock unit, not only did we shave off a ton of material, quite a bit of weight, and we really streamlined the look of this bike. So if you're interested in this product or any other product we may have for the Aprilia RS 660, be sure to check out our website, tstindustries.com. The link is in the description of this video to this exact product. We also have videos for the TST LED rear pod turn signals that you may want to use, being that you removed your OEM fender and those OEM turn signals. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn the notification bell on to stay up to date with all the new videos we're putting out. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, leave them down in the comment field below. We'd love to hear from you. And lastly, stop by our social media pages, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all username TST Industries. For now, this has been Mark and Bart from TST. Catch you guys next time.